And we're live. Okay. Oh, we already have quite a lot of people joining us. This is exciting. So we're at oh wow. Okay, so we're at 2021. Welcome everyone. For everybody that's trickling in, you're here for the Now or Never Tackling Employee Retention During a Labor Shortage webinar. We're a couple minutes early, so we're gonna kind of let people trickle in. But for those that are already starting to come in, if you want to use the chat function on your screen, you can let us know where you're calling in from. And let's see where everybody's coming from. Okay, we got Arizona, some California, New Jersey. We can see all these coming through. This is exciting. Pennsylvania, England. Okay, so we've already got a global audience. This is going to be this is exciting. So we're going to let everybody kind of trickle in for another minute or so, a couple seconds. For those that have joined us, thank you. I think it's really great that you've all taken time to come listen about how to tackle employee retention during a labor shortage. That's what you're here for. Now or never, tackling employee retention during a labor shortage with Flagler Force and eduMe. I'm Logan from Beekeeper. Florida, South Africa, 41, 42. We've got people really trickling in now. So as the time gets closer to starting. Yeah, we're going to get started in a couple of seconds, and we'll kind of run through some of the different items. But for those joining us now, you're here for the Now or Never Tackling Employee Retention During a Labor Shortage. Yeah, so for those just joining us, I had mentioned at the start to use the chat and let us know where you're calling in from today. Tennessee, Washington, Wisconsin, California. Great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start to get started. So for those just joining us, we're here for the Now or Never Tackling Employee Retention During a Labor Shortage webinar with Flagler Force and eduMe. I'm Logan from Beekeeper. People are using the chat to let us know where they're calling in from. And as we get started, just want to run through a couple of housekeeping items. Yes, we'll send a recap for everybody. That recap is going to include a recording to this webinar, as well as the slide deck. And go ahead and use the chat function like you are now for where you're calling in from, as well as the Q&A function. We will do a question and answer at the end. And if we'll try to get to your question. If we don't get to your question, we will be documenting all of the questions and send those out later afterwards. So your question will get answered. And let's make this interactive and take the polls. So I'm going to go and jump in and do some introductions. So for today, we have Charlotte Buffington, Head of Customer Success in North America at Beekeeper, Connor Hunsaker, Enterprise Success Lead at eduMe, Tamara Palmer, Internal Communications Manager at Flagler Force, and Chris Byerly, Director of Brand and Strategy at Flagler Force. I'm going to go ahead and quickly launch a poll, and we want to know, what is your role? So, okay, we've got quite a few people coming in. We got, oh wow, I get to see all these results. It's exciting. We've got human resources, talent acquisitions, communications, operations. Wow, people are still coming in. We're going to have we've got not only a global audience, but we've got all sorts of different roles. We're going to have a really great session today. And I think you're going to walk away with a lot of great information from eduMe, Flagler Force, And I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll now, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just to run through a quick agenda of what we're gonna be talking about, we're gonna go through some frontline workforce challenges, how Flagler Force leverages employee referrals, tackling employee retention, frontline workforce innovation, and then we'll close it all out with a Q&A. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Charlotte. Charlotte, take it away.
Great, thank you, Logan. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlotte Buffington, Head of Customer Success. And in my 4 years at Beekeeper, the most inspiring moments have been hearing from our customers about how they use technology like ours to empower their frontline teams, ultimately creating organizations that their employers are really proud to work for. Stories like this are even more impressive given the unprecedented and challenging trends that we're seeing today. So for those of you that may not know, Beekeeper's mission is to empower frontline businesses with modern technology that make their workforce more engaged, productive, and happy. We hold a passionate belief that frontline workers are the engine that drive any business. We work with over 1,000 frontline businesses worldwide, from food manufacturing companies like Cargill to companies that make transportation equipment like Amstead Rail or robotics like ABB. We're one of the very few companies that focus exclusively on the frontline sector, and we love our work because we understand the value of your frontline teams. So as a business, we really want to understand frontline challenges more deeply and look to sources such as Deloitte and the National Women's Law Center to do so. We learned that 71% of CEOs say a labor and skills shortage has been a major disruptor to their businesses in 2022. To give you some context, this is up from 34% only 2 years ago. Additionally, 1.4 million women exited the workplace between February and May of 2020. Of course, this has to do with reasons related to COVID, but also other reasons such as a shift in priorities, or maybe some of these women needing to go home and take care of their families, right? We also learned that there are several macro trends that are fueling this shortage. While technology and digital transformation can empower workers, technology can also be something that's a little new and scary. Additionally, while a generation is leaving the workforce, we also see that a new generation is joining the workforce and is entering the workforce. And this new generation might have different expectations or needs. We're also seeing a mobile workforce move across the globe into different companies and roles, which is really exciting. But with this can come cultural differences or maybe language barriers. All of these reasons combined, and of course then some, are making it even more challenging for businesses to engage with their employees. In order to learn even more about these trends, at Beekeeper, we took this research into our own hands and surveyed our very own end users. Not to my surprise, at least, we heard that understaffing is a #1 stressor in the workplace. This makes sense, right? If there are less people to do the same or even more amount of work, this will cause a lot of anxiety. On a similar note, when there's proper staffing, this leads to workplace happiness. There are a few other factors we learned about that also make employees happy. Everyone wants to do a job well done, and they want to be able to complete their tasks on time. We also learned that they want to hear from their managers and from their customers and colleagues that they're doing a good job. They want this positive feedback and this praise. And lastly, I found this one really interesting. It wasn't necessarily culture or higher pay that leads to happiness or as a motivator, but actually transparency around changes. So if there are large business changes, maybe in leadership or a big process change, individuals want to understand how that impacts them in their day-to-day. So if it's even possible to simplify everything I just shared and all of these trends, I think it's really safe to say that a major root cause of these challenges that we're seeing are a massive disconnect between the reality of frontline workers and the reality of office workers like many of us on this call today. All, and I want to emphasize all of the tech solutions employers offer were designed for office work, which is fundamentally different than frontline work. So with all of that said, it's my absolute honor to reintroduce Chris and Tamara from Flagler. They are absolutely one of those inspiring customers that I had mentioned earlier. Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you to tell us a bit more about Flagler before we really dive into how Flagler is addressing the labor shortage today. So Chris, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Charlotte. So a little bit about Flagler. We are a traffic control company. So we're doing the cones and work zones that you're driving through. And you may not want to be driving through, but we want to keep you safe through those. And those are about utility work, usually for us. So it's about infrastructure and supporting that. And so when you see a work zone, it should denote progress and improvement. But as you know, with infrastructure, it's everywhere. So it is, spread across society. And so we need to support that spread out service. And so as a result, we have a highly dispersed workforce. Our folks do not come into our facilities very often. They actually deploy from their home every day for the most part. And as a result, that creates some unique challenges. One of those being that we can't bring everyone under one roof. It's hard for them to connect to the company at times. For us to provide them resources is a little more challenging. And even for them to connect to each other is different. So it's different from like a manufacturing or warehouse situation. So it's a really important that we have a platform to do that. So back in 2017, we did some focus groups and tried to understand where our needs were with our employees. And it was really clear we needed a channel and a way to engage. And we did a system selection process and ended up with Beekeeper. And it's been great. It's been really good to help with a fast-paced company. We are, in a wage band that has a lot of turnover. So that was important for us to engage was basically a very people-driven service delivery. Without our people, without them being engaged and understanding the company, we can't deliver. It's people out there creating work zones and keeping people safe.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris, for that overview. And this will take me then into my first question. And Tamara, I'll ask this one to you. How is Flagler using employee referrals to address the labor shortage?
Thanks, Charlotte. That's a great question. One of the programs that we released last year was we got our communications and our operations and recruiting teams together to collaborate on a relaunch of Flagler employee referral program. This was definitely to target the labor shortage that we were experiencing. So what we did was we formulated a strategy at which Beekeeper was the heart of it. Our strategy was to create awareness and illuminate success stories around the people who we were bringing in through this referral program and how we were actually supporting them as newly hired employees. So this success model was designed to use the platform and combine monetary referral bonuses with new hire mentorship. And I think that the stats for them, they really do speak for themselves. When we rolled this program out, we got over 800 referrals. And from those people, we hired 30%, which really blew out of the water our traditional hire rate, which was normally about 5%. So this was an excellent way for us to bring in the new talent that we were definitely lacking because of the labor shortage. Now, in the course of that, these people that we brought in with our referral bonuses and mentorship, what we ended up doing was the mentorship actually had them stay with us longer. So we saw that referred employees were staying with Flagler an average of 50 days longer than anybody that we hired through our traditional methods. We did a little number crunching, and that led us to almost $250,000 in savings. That was just the saving cost in terms of training and onboarding. That does not account for the revenue that was brought in by those employees who were staying with us longer and working for our clients longer. So all in all, really successful employee referral relaunch.
Amazing.
Now the referral program itself, we learned a lot, but we started off by using existing best practices. If you do any kind of research on what's the best practice for an employee referral program, you're going to get a bunch of hits, and they all say about the same thing. So we started there, but then we really adjusted the program to meet our needs. So how that worked for us was, it looks a little bit like this. We set up this program. We had a lot of collaboration between our departments. We then heavily marketed our referral program to our existing employee base, primarily using the Beekeeper app. At that point, our program champions, as we like to call them, they just sort of trickled up naturally. They knew what the program was about. It was very simple and easy to do to get yourself and your people hired at Flagler Force through our program. And so they really took advantage of that. So we found program champions to take advantage of the referral program. We then created those really strong participation incentives. We had milestones that we needed our employees to hit. Those were hours worked. So every time you hit those milestones, that's when you got your payout. And that was key because what that did was that ensured that the people who were referred and the people referring were rewarded for their efforts based on how many hours they were working with the company. Essentially, at that point, we also really heavily leveraged promotion, of course, to advertise the program, but also because every time we had someone getting those milestones, we sent them a chat message, letting them know to expect some money in their paycheck. So that was the first thing. And we celebrated those milestones publicly by posting on the app. And that was just a really nice way to hit that two ways. The promotion of the milestones of hours worked and payouts ignited the awareness to the employee base, as well as reinforced the value of the program. So that's how we rolled out our referral program and our best practices that we learned.
Great. Thank you so much, Tamara, for sharing. And it's really exciting to see that you're not only promoting these referrals, but also celebrating those that take part in the program and take advantage of it. And it's obviously working out well in terms of your retention. Anything more to share on this topic?
Yeah, well, Chris, I think wants to talk a little bit more about Ernest here, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the Beekeeper dimension really shines. So this is where it becomes human. So we have the metrics and we have the business outcomes, but who are the people involved in this and what are they doing? And Ernest here, who has a great name, being very earnest in using this program, had 4 successful hires, but it's not just him referring someone or recruiting someone to come on board, but it's really his mentorship. So for him, it was about how does he support that person, mentor them to get through those milestones and to get to the incentive one for both of them. But I think that that's the best outcome for a referral program, is that we're not just bringing someone on board, but we're making sure that they're successful and we're making sure that they're connected to the company. And what happens is that we are able to see that the visibility of Ernest's story, the people that he mentored, and those interactions become visible to leadership as we see what's going on and the tangible human results of the program. But then also, this is a model for other people to use. I see Ernest is doing this and he's getting his payouts, but more importantly, I see how rewarding this has been for him to do this. And I feel like I'm supporting the company, I'm supporting other people in the program. And that's a unique feature of using a platform like this for those sorts of programs. And we see it, and we'll see this again in other things we're going to talk about.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Hearing how you are developing and celebrating your team members such as Ernest and others through this program takes me to my next question. What are Flagler Force's active strategies today for retaining employees?
Well, I think this is another really interesting example of this. So when we're retaining employees, we're not just thinking about everybody, but we're also really trying to think about our best employees and who are they. And this allows you another window into that. So, it seems pretty intuitive now to think of it, but when you look at people that are highly engaged in our platform, supporting people, telling stories, liking comments, that sort of thing. Those are often the people who are getting promoted and rising up in the company. And so when our field leadership became aware of that, as we sort of pointed this out, they were like, wow, this is a great way for me to find talent, to develop talent. And what we'll see is a chance for people to tell their story that might not otherwise be told. So this is Eugene, okay? And he was a field leader who was part of an expansion team into North Carolina for us. So it was a new market we were opening up. And it was a 60-day period that he was down there to open this market up with a few other people. And so he took it upon himself to be kind of the brand journalist down there and say, okay, well, here's some pictures of what's going on. Here's interesting things that are happening. Here's what my life is like down here in a traveling group. And it kept everybody in sort of this consistent serial of stories every day or every couple of days about what was going on. And he really became the voice of this expansion. And so when we were doing a retrospective at our corporate office, we invited Eugene up to be like, hey, you were the guy that was down there telling us all these things. And that's our CEO, Mike Donor, who was recognizing him at a meeting. And shortly thereafter, it's not surprising that Eugene then became a field leader, became a supervisor, and continues to this day to be a very active person, on the platform, and a go-to person that's answering questions and things like that. And it just goes into, showing the value of understanding the human experience and how do we retain our best employees and who are they and what's their story. And I think that's a really great aspect of the platform.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And I'm sure, Tamara, if you could tell us a bit more, I'm sure there's some programs that this really opened your eyes to, or some opportunity to find other field leaders like Eugene. Tamara, if you wouldn't mind telling us a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So another program that we ran and actually continue to run to this day to really highlight and retain our best and brightest was something that we call the Crew Spotlight Program. This Crew Spotlight Program was something we ran last year, where our field leadership were tasked with creating positive and authentic stories about the various personalities that they would meet in the field. So our field leaders, as a part of their daily duties, perform site visits. They drive up to our work zones where our crews are actively working and flagging. That's just a part of their natural cadence of work. So we thought, well, hey, if you're already going there, why don't you maybe show up? And if you see a really well-designed work zone, or if you see that our employees are going above and beyond, for example, we've got employees that are frequently helping carry groceries in for elderly people who happen to live nearby. What we'd like you to do is write about that on the app. And so what we did was the communication team put together a really easy to use post template, did a little bit of training for our field leadership group, and then set them forward to do this positive storytelling. And what we found was that 75% of our field leaders participated in the Crew Spotlight program, which was really great because that was a 60% increase of engagement from this group over the year prior. So a huge uptick in field leaders using the platform. The upshot for the platform itself, our app, was that there was a 25% increase in stream engagement across the entire field user base. So really exciting because the field user base was mimicking leadership's Crew Spotlight formats and sentiment, which is something we identified and we ended up later calling the halo effect from leadership engagement. So essentially what the Crew Spotlight story tells us in terms of retention is that when you kind of operationalize the ability to communicate on the app by creating very simple agency and a little bit of direction about what to say and how to say it, you will empower the people who are your best to be discussing work on the app. And you kind of just let them know it's okay to be posting this stuff on your employee app. So another really successful story that again does continue to today. And it's even transitioned here at Flagler Force into a measurement that our field leadership uses at the annual review time is how engaged are you as a field leader on our app? So all around, we're very pleased and very, very happy with the success.
Great. And congratulations on that success, Tamara. That's great. So thank you both, Chris and Tamara. Those are both very powerful stories. And Tamara, as you just mentioned, a big theme that we're seeing today is retention, right? And we see it as a byproduct of generating employee referrals, like we saw with Ernest, and finding field leaders like Eugene and developing the Crew Spotlight program. I do want to shift gears just a little bit. So we earned earlier with some of the micro trends that while digital transformation can definitely be a big change for frontline teams, it's also a key driver of solving a labor shortage and also becoming an employer of choice. So Chris, my next question is for you. How is Flagler Force taking digital transformation head on and innovating?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Beekeeper has been a great platform for integration and, building out access to resources. And, I mean, really, all of the work that we've done to create a channel of engagement. And so those are using good communication practices and understanding our audience really well. And so the people are there. And it's an easy way to access things. And so once they're there, now we can utilize what I think Beekeeper is really good at, which is integrating and partnering with other people. And so that's made we've done a whole bunch of things with integrations with WordPress and creating, some of our gear rewards and things like that. But a big component for us is around compliance. I mean, we're using, we have utility clients, and safety is really important to them. It's obviously super important to us because it's, traffic control and everything. So, with that dispersed workforce, how are we doing continuous learning? How are we demonstrating, compliance of things? And so micro learning became a really important initiative, as we understand that, you forget things, especially when our trainings are sometimes separated by distance and everything else. And so we were like, what can we do for micro learning? And, as we looked at different systems, of course, Beekeeper is like, hey, we've got a great partnership and integration that we're building with eduMe. And so we got introduced to them, and it's been really successful in terms of building this out. I mean, it's a very easy system to use, but it's also the content creation is very powerful and engaging. And what we're looking forward to is this learning management system of providing continuous learning, but then not just in the field, but there's a ton of opportunity in our office staff as well, and engaging them through this. So we have some part-time work cases that we're looking at, and how do we keep those folks in compliance when they're having a different work schedule. We're definitely going to be using eduMe for that. And then anytime we can get rid of paper and other sort of administrative things like that, that's great. And so eduMe once again is looking as a really important partner there. So I mean, Connor will do from eduMe will do a much better job of explaining, those things. But our onboarding with them and our build out right now has been like super exciting, I think, for this year.
Great. Connor, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about eduMe.
Absolutely. First off, I just wanted to say, Beekeeper, we are so grateful to have such an incredible partner who truly values their clients and wants to help the frontline workforce. And same with Flagler Force. You're a dream client for us. Always prepared, forward thinking, helping push our product and making us better. So who's eduMe? Where do we kind of fit into this picture? Chris, perfect segue. You nailed it. I mean, from our perspective, our goal is to provide micro-based learning, mobile-based. That is something that is natively integrated into the workflow and the tech stack that you already have existing, which I think is what's so exciting about this Beekeeper partnership. Is it's one-click access in an app that they're already invested in, they're already engaged with, in getting the information they need when they need it. So our main goal is, again, to provide seamless access to relevant knowledge in the time of need, to not, really have an operational bottleneck. And as I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, the average American, I think, spends 3 hours and 42 minutes on their phones a day. That's insane. And we're living in the TikTok era where we're getting bite-sized content, 9 seconds, and then it's on to something else. So we want to make it short and sweet, but also have them be able to digest the information that they're getting and ultimately upskill themselves, do better when they're at work, and become more productive, and also feel good, and then stick around for a little bit. So from our perspective, again, when we think about some of these modern companies like Flagler, so you can see some of the logos here at the bottom, but we've pioneered this product with Uber, Grubhub, GoPuff is from the bigger ones. But we're really, really excited. I don't want to steal any of the thunder from Tamara here on kind of some of the results that we've seen thus far, but I'll kick it back over to the Flagler team.
Thanks, Connor. What Connor's referring to is that we just recently, with just a couple weeks ago, actually launched eduMe on the Beekeeper app to our employee base. It's actually called FF Learn internally. That's what we call it at our company. But we did this without any prior promotional marketing. So we just sort of opened it up one day. We had a couple of lessons already built in. They're only 3 to 5 minutes each. And what we found was we had a really successful launch. And I think that this just demonstrates sort of the viability of the eduMe platform.
Tamara, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we might have lost your audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, take your time. Chris, yeah, I was gonna say maybe you have some details.
Yeah, I can hop on here. We had awesome response rate on this. And also in terms of the completion rate, completing these courses was getting the whole way through them was really important. And we got an amazing completion rate and a 92% satisfaction rate. We asked them, how'd you like it? How'd you like learning this way? And they loved it. And to Connor's point about being bite-sized in this day and age, that's important, but also I think the quality of the content, the engagement of people with how the usability of the product is great. And I think that's why they want to learn that way. And what we found is that when we do have engagement and adoption of these initiatives, and once we get to that critical like 70% level, we see measurable impacts, measurable outcomes, right, to the things that we want. So for us around damage, injury, particularly like small soft tissue injury and things like that, those practices of being like remembering about risk normalization, you can get normalized that thing. These sorts of things, we're seeing like real business outcomes with them and real measurement of what we're doing. So, it's been great. It's really, really good.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Tamara, do we have you back? No. Can't hear you. That's okay. It happens. All right, great. Well, Chris, Tamara, and Connor, thank you so much for sharing your stories about the partnership between eduMe and Flagler. And huge congratulations from all of us on your success so far. Really looking forward to seeing all of the success that's still to come. Okay, I know we covered a lot today, and I hope everyone in the audience feels empowered to tackle employee retention with some of these amazing ideas shared by the entire group here. In some way or another, we covered all of the topics on this slide. So again, we definitely discussed a lot, and I'm sure you all have a ton of questions. I know Logan's been sorting through and grabbing some of those questions. So let's see if we can go ahead and answer some of those now. But please remember, if we don't get to your question, we will be sending a recap, and we'll do our best to answer every question that we can. So Logan, what questions do we have?
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. So we've got a few questions. So let's see here. The first one, so how did you determine objectives with eduMe?
So in terms of objectives was first around, I said compliance. So we need to be able to show that people have taken courses, that we've provided learning about that, particularly when there's an incident, but our clients want to see that. So the big piece was about learning management and having the ability to do that reporting, but also content creation. I mean, we've got trainers who are not, they're not marketers, they're not, and they're not technologists either. So it needed to be simple. They need to be able to get their information, which is very much field related and safety related, into this format. And the eduMe platform made that really easy. So that was a really important usability piece for the content creators, not just the users themselves. And of course, being frontline employees, it needed to be really easy to use on that side. And so based on our system selection process, that criteria was really nailed, perfectly for us. If that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. To follow up on the eduMe question, does eduMe support videos? And maybe this goes back to Connor.
Yeah, great question. And absolutely we do. I think what Chris just highlighted is the ease of use of the content creation side. We designed it that way. We want, you don't need a PhD in learning development to be able to pump out great content quickly. That looks great. So we do support MP4s, whether you want to shoot something with an iPhone. Again, the quality of these cameras these days are wonderful. So you don't have to spend a lot to have something look great. And then we also, if you have something housed, whether it's on YouTube, we can embed a link, and it maybe takes 10 or 15 seconds with just a couple of clicks to get that up and running.
Great. So, okay, we've got another question here. Are you using seamless links with eduMe? And I think that's probably directed towards Flagler Force.
Yeah, I believe we are using those, to get back and forth. I know that there's, as you doing any integration, there's always like, some things you have to work through. I have to say that the eduMe team has been like incredibly good at planning this out, being very responsive and adaptive to what we needed to accomplish. I think we're one of the early adopters of the eduMe integration with Beekeeper, and all of the onboarding, all of the build out and integration has been like super good. So I really think it's been seamless in that sense.
Good. And then how do you find self-service adoption going with eduMe?
So, I mean, the self-service adoption has been great. As we put this out there to our field with very little marketing. It's really a bit of an experiment. And because of the widget, which is a way of presenting the content and the eduMe platform front and center in our channel, right, in our platform, it's been really easy for them to just access that and start using all of the curriculum that we've been putting out there. And like I said, the response has been great. And in terms of content creation, being able to go in and pull that stuff together very quickly and easily, because we have a lot of content, and how do you take that content from safety and then put that into a learning management program and serve it up? And that's been very easy to just pull and then play all that stuff out there. So it's been good.
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Camera's back. Great.
It was a really exciting technical error with my speakers over here. Just to piggyback off what Chris answered, in terms of the self-adoption, yes, that's all true. What we do now that we have a cadence where we publish a course every week, every Friday. So there's consistency in when we're putting the course out there. We're using the posting availability of the streams to let people know that there's a new course available. And so what we're finding is that's just a pretty simple, straightforward marketing. And then we're getting feedback from employees who are basically using their downtime while at the job site to kill time by logging in and using the the app to take their courses. So right now, how we rolled this out was not mandatory. It's all voluntary, and it's been very interesting to see that our engaged employees are like, yeah, I'm going to use this to brush up on my skills and maybe just kill some time while we're waiting for the clients who arrive to the job site. So I just wanted to piggyback off that. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Tamara. We have another question. I'm going to summarize it just a little bit, but and I know we have customers that do this, so this might be a question for Charlotte or for the Flagler Force crew, Chris and Tamara. But if you aren't allowed to have phones in the production area, how are customers utilizing Beekeeper?
I can take that one.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I can take that. And then Tamara, if you have any specific examples as well. If not on the production floor, we absolutely see a lot of usage in those break rooms. So if an employee isn't accessing necessarily that information right on the floor, which we absolutely understand is very common across all industries and all businesses, still checking it when they are, in that break room, enjoying time off. Also when they're at home. I think one of the best things about Beekeeper is that information can be accessed anywhere, right? We're a mobile app, a mobile first app. So any critical information can be accessed, not on the floor. And that's the beauty of it. Tamara, I'm not sure if you have a specific story from Flagler Force.
Yeah, we would say the same. We have a social media policy where our field employees in particular are not allowed to use their phone while they're actively flagging, and they follow those rules, but they're using them during break times, when they have their lunches, and in the morning. We see a peak usage in the afternoon, the late afternoon after they finish their job for the day. And so, as Charlotte said, they're just respectful of the fact that they're not supposed to use their phone while they're working unless they absolutely have to.
Great. I think we probably have time for one more question. So it's, let's see here. I'm trying to summarize it. So how do you share like the success stories like Ernest and Eugene with the leadership team?
I mean, first of all, our leadership team is on the platform. Our CEO is a big champion. He likes to be on there. He's a bit of a personality on there. And when he shows up at a job site, they kind of know who he is because he's on there. And so the visibility of those stories are already happening organically or sort of naturally, but we do report out on metrics and outcomes. We also are looking at campaigns and initiatives, and then there's a component of communication and how that went. And so those are part and parcel of how we measure the success of initiatives. So sharing those stories becomes part, if it's a really good story, you're seeing it anyway. And also how we can connect that to like a business need or a business outcome in a more formal way.
Great. Anything to add there, Tamara? Otherwise, I think we're running out of time here. So anything else to add?
No, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, though.
Awesome. So then, so just to close out, we did have a handful more questions. So I did document them, and we will send out answers to all of them. So those all will come. But just to close everything out, Beekeeper does have an employee referral solution. I am going to throw the link to the landing page in the chat. So if you want to learn more about that solution, feel free to schedule a demo on the landing page. And this is the exact solution that Flagler Force used. We call it the employee referral journey. And it's 4 steps: inform, collect, track, and reward. So your workforce can share job openings with your entire workforce anytime, anywhere, reduce your hiring team's workload, and get valuable insights into your employee referral program. And Flagler Force is just one of hundreds of customers that is using Beekeeper and in the Beekeeper family. Our software empowers frontline workers across manufacturing, retail, hospitalities, and many other industries. So just want to give a huge thank you to Flagler Force, Chris and Tamara for joining us today, Connor and the eduMe team for being a great partner, and Charlotte for being an excellent moderator. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank everybody who has attended today for taking the time to talk about tackling employee retention. And again, if you want to learn more about anything we talked about today, referrals, retention, feel free to schedule a demo on the landing page that's linked in the chat below. Thanks, everyone, and have a great Wednesday.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.